Hello everyone and welcome to the Grand Review podcast for the 2020 pre-season testing. It's week 2 here from the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in Spain, and it got off to an electrifying start. After a thrilling first week of 3 days of testing, Mercedes looked unbeatable once again. Could they repeat that in week 2? Let's find out what happened on day 1 of week 2. So in the morning session then of the first day of week 2 of pre-season testing, Robert Kubica topped the timesheets at 1:16.942. He was one of the fastest ones ahead, 6/10 ahead of Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. Sebastian Vettel completed more than 80 laps, but spinning halfway through brought out a red flag as well. The fastest lap for Robert Kubica in the Alfa Romeo, 40 minutes remaining before the lunch break. He's at that time on the softest tyre, the C5 compound. 53 laps he managed in the morning session as well. He gave over to Kimi Raikkonen in the afternoon session. Pierre Gasly as well. Second place, C4 tyre for him. The Honda Power cars managed to complete more than 30 laps, but it was a difficult morning session for AlphaTauri and Red Bull Honda as well. They were in the garage for a lot longer than we were expecting as well. Lance Stroll round out the top 5 in the morning session, 2/10 behind Lewis Hamilton, who was 4th overall as well. Red flag, though, was brought out for gravel on the track by Sebastian Vettel, who spun at turn 9, similar to what happened to the Haas last week with Kevin Magnussen. Just lost the rear mid-corner, went across the gravel. He kept him out of the session as well before the end of the summer break. Williams, though, were the big surprise in the morning session. It looks like they are going to be back up into the midfield to where we hope they're going to be. But definitely, Robert Kubica, the test driver, topping the pre-season testing day 1 morning session. Let's take a look at the full times now. So day 1 of test 2, and it was Robert Kubica who was fastest in the morning session on a 1:16.942. Pierre Gasly was second at 1:17.540. Alexander Albon in third at 1:17.550. Then we got Lewis Hamilton in fourth on a 1:17.562. Lance Stroll in 5th place on a 1:17.787. Sebastian Vettel in 6th on 1:18.113. Danny Ricciardo is 7th on a 1:18.214. Carlos Sainz 8th on 1:18.221. Nicholas Latifi 9th on 1:18.3. And Romain Grosjean rounding out the top 10 on 1:18.670. Right, let's get on to the afternoon session then of the week 2, day 1, and again, Robert Kubica managed to keep his time despite not actually running in the afternoon session. But Verstappen spinning out of the day as well. That was pretty much a nightmare situation. With just 5 minutes to go, he came into turn number 10, the tight little hairpin at the bottom half of sector 3, lost control of the car and stalled the engine. It went to anti-stall and it cut out. Before that, the car wasn't sounding too healthy either. But at the same time, the sister team, the AlphaTauri, with Danny Kvyat at the wheel, also stopped at the top of the hill at turn 9. We think that is just a tactical run out of fuel situation because he parked off track. That would have caused a red flag normally, but with Verstappen, he was pretty much in the firing line down at turn 10 if anyone locked up, so the red flag had to be called. It called the day early with 5 minutes to go. Kubica's time for the morning stood, as I said, at 1:16.942. He was on the C5 tyre compound as well. Max Verstappen managed to go into second place at 1:17.347. Perez, Kvyat, Gasly topped the top 5. But if we look what the two Mercedes are, Lewis Hamilton ended up 7th, but Valtteri Bottas only managed 9th in the afternoon session. The two Ferraris, well, Vettel was down in 10th place, but if we look down as well, it was a terrible day for Ferrari with Vettel. Kept in the garage for quite a long time. He completed only 84 laps compared to day 3 in week 1 test where he completed 100 laps. So very much lost time out on the track. The biggest one though was definitely for Renault, and Esteban Ocon kept out for an hour and and a half in the first half of the afternoon session. He only completed 74 laps in the end. That is more than Kimi Raikkonen managed in that afternoon session, but still not great that they lost that amount of track time. They won't be able to get it back if anything goes wrong in the next few days. The same can be going for the other teams as well. 89 laps in the morning for Lewis Hamilton. Bottas managed more than 90 in the afternoon. It's getting quite difficult now to pick out the midfield teams as to who's got the best car, because McLaren and Williams seems to be in a very competitive front, which is great to see Williams back at the front as well. But it's definitely right now coming out as Mercedes v Red Bull, with Ferrari very much on the back foot. The only thing that we could have said with Ferrari is that they used the power unit that did fail on Sebastian Vettel last week in the afternoon session, so that engine seems to be okay, but still not positive that it broke so early on. But news is breaking all around this test. Only days 2 and 3 of this second test can tell us more, as we can get a full picture going into Melbourne. Let's take a look then at the full results from day 2. So Robert Kubica's time for the morning stood all throughout day 1 of test 2 of pre-season testing on 1:16.942. Max Verstappen was second fastest at 1:17.347, but stopped down the track, causing an early stop to the day. Sergio Perez was third at 1:17.428. Danny Kvyat also stopped down at turn 9 within 4 minutes to go. He too, with Verstappen, brought an end to the day, but he managed fourth on a 1:17.456. Pierre Gasly's fifth at 1:17.540. Then we get a 1:17.550 for Alexander Albon in 6th place. Lewis Hamilton 7th on a 1:17.562. Lance Stroll 8th at 1:17.787. Valtteri Bottas 9th at 1:18.1. And Sebastian Vettel rounding out the top 10 at 1:18.113. Daniel Ricciardo is 11th at 1:18.214. Carlos Sainz 12th at 1:18.221. Charles Leclerc 13th at 1:18.244. Nicholas Latifi 14th at 1:18.3. George Russell is 15th at 1:18.535. Romain Grosjean 16th at 1:18.670. 17th for Lando Norris at 1:18.826. Kimi Raikkonen is 18th at 1:19.515, and Esteban Ocon rounds out the grid 19th overall at 1:21.542, but lost 2.5 hours of running today and only got in a couple of laps. The second day of pre-season testing was just as eventful as the first, but it got off to a slow start. What would happen? Let's take a look at the highlights from day 2. So let's take a look then at the morning session of day 2 of week 2 of pre-season testing. And, well, proceedings got off to a slow start, with rain overnight affecting how the teams ran the first hour and a half of action. A couple of red flags as well stopped proceedings, but everybody went out on the intermediate tyre for what could be the only real wet running they get in this pre-season. You see? Say wet running quite clearly, and you just can't. The drivers as well couldn't drive in the wet, a lot of them skating around, especially Esteban Ocon in the Renault, who went out on the track first. But it was Sebastian Vettel who, despite spinning down at turn 5 and ending up in the gravel trap backwards, managed to get it back to the pits, and he ended the morning session fastest on a 1:16.841. Lance Stroll surprised everyone. He was second fastest, 1:17.188. He did that though on the C3 tyre compound, so put that on the C5s and we could be seeing something very interesting in the Racing Point later on in the year. Moving forward as well, McLaren's Lando Norris, 4th fastest as well, 7/10 off the pace. Best lap coming on the C2 tyre compound. We can't really tell anything for the times in testing, but it is very much a expectance to see. You can sort of work out where the teams are going to be overall. A couple of spins down at turn 5. Valtteri Bottas was the first. Coming down the hill into turn 5, dry tyre, wet track on the curb, just kicked up the water and spun the car around into the gravel trap backwards. He was able to get it back out though. Just a few moments later, Max Verstappen did it, but spun up the rear tyres, and that was it, game over. He was stuck in the gravel trap, causing the red flag. Sebastian Vettel, as I said, would later go on to do that as well. But it was an interesting session as well, if you were Sebastian Vettel, because after that failure last week with the engine, it's sort of like, Are we competitive? Are we not competitive? It's very hard for what Ferrari are planning, because this headline today with Vettel topping the morning session and the afternoon session later on, it's a bit of in the midst of, it's not really accurate to see where the teams are going to go with that one as well. But that was half of the running. The full action was really in the afternoon. Let's take a quick look though at the times from the morning session. So Sebastian Vettel was fastest on a 1:16.841. Lance Stroll was second on a 1:17.118. Nicholas Latifi in third place, a 1:17.313. Lando Norris in fourth on a 1:17.573. Max Verstappen is fifth on 1:17.738. Valtteri Bottas in sixth on a 1:17.985. Esteban Ocon is seventh on 1:18.013. Kevin Magnussen in 8th place on 1:18.225, Antonio Giovinazzi in 9th on a 1:19.670, and Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10 a 1:22.566. So the afternoon session was really where everything kicked off, especially if your name's Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes. Now, only just 14 laps completed for Lewis Hamilton. The power unit shut down at turn 5. Now, we're going to show you on screen now exactly what happened to Hamilton. So coming out of the turn 4 hairpin, downhill towards turn 5, watch, he drops down for the braking zone into third gear, gets back on the power, but the power immediately cuts out. He's stuck in third gear, the rear brakes start to lock on, and as you can see, the throttle just begins to get stuck at about 50 kph. The car grinds to a halt downhill, and then the brakes lock on. Hamilton stops the car automatically as well, and then he's ground to a halt. Now, the reason for that is that what Mercedes say was an oil issue, and then the power unit detected that issue and shut off the engine automatically. They say it should not be a problem going forward for tomorrow, and Mercedes, what we understand, are going to change the power unit, but just for a precaution going into the final day of running. But still, we still believe they're on the first power unit that they used, but then again, we've heard Williams, they've had issues with the power unit all throughout this test. We've seen them stopping with Latifi, so really, it's just a little bit of cat and mouse with them. Moving on as well, Sebastian Vettel still set the fastest time for the morning session. He was right up there. Pierre Gasly stuck on the C5 tyre compounds later on in the session. He went for a glory run with about 10 minutes to go. He went up from 13th all the way up into second place. That dropped Hamilton down, of course, into last place. Not often we see the Mercedes at the back. Lance Stroll, again impressive in that racing point, but of course there wasn't really many delays on this last day, on this last session of the day, because everyone was just so keen on getting the race runs in. Yes, everyone did try to do 308 kilometers, which is the standard race distance, and nearly every team got it in, bar Mercedes. They never got a clean race run in because Lewis Hamilton stopped out on the track. Haas as well are having some issues. They lost a couple of days of running, don't forget, throughout this test. They still are not up to speed as well. And of course, tomorrow, the Drive to Survive program on Netflix, the F1 documentary reviewing last year, drops, and everyone is looking forward to seeing what Gunther Steiner's got to say about last season on the program. And let me tell you something, even Haas getting into the games as well by putting a picture of one of their mechanics in one of the drain hole covers on the pit wall to look back at the team. So everyone getting into the fun and spirit of testing. It's all light-hearted, but still there's some serious issues going down at Haas, on Renault, and even throw that in with the Mercedes. Is their power unit reliable? But the big news of the day, well, Ferrari finally topped the session. It's not the fastest time of the test, but still, if I was Sebastian Vettel, I would be pretty worried about what that car could actually do. Is it as competitive as Red Bull and Mercedes? McLaren are looking good as well, with Racing Point and even Williams looking strong. We're beginning now to finally see the pecking order. The final day tomorrow should provide us with more. Let's take a look at the times, though, from day 2's afternoon session. So Sebastian Vettel ended up top from his time from this morning session, a 1:16.841. Pierre Gasly slotted into second place on 1:17.066, Lance Stroll third on 1:17.118, Nicholas Latifi fourth on 1:17.313, Lando Norris in fifth on 1:17.573, Max Verstappen is sixth on a 1:17.738, Valtteri Bottas seventh on a 1:17.985, Esteban Ocon is in eighth place on a 1:18.013, Kevin Magnussen ninth on 1:18.225, Alexander Albon rounds out the top 10 on 1:18.393. Then we get Danny Ricciardo in 11th on a 1:18.395, Antonio Giovinazzi in 12th on a 1:19.670, and Lewis Hamilton only completing 14 laps due to the power unit issue. He's in 13th last on a 1:22.425. Day 3 of pre-season testing, the last one of the season, and everybody was ready to go and getting ready for Melbourne. Let's take a look at what happened on day 3. Let's get on to the morning report then from day 3 of pre-season testing, and a late attack run from Renault's Daniel Ricciardo saw him topping the timesheets on just 0.134 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton. A truly impressive run for him. The top 3 managed to stay the fastest. They did it on the C5 tyre compound from Pirelli, the softest compound of all, so mighty impressive for them. Charles Leclerc on top with an hour remaining. The numbers kept coming down and down, but Ricciardo's time in the last few minutes of the session was a 1:16.276. He set the fastest time in the morning. Going into the lunch break as well. 4th place for Sergio Perez as well, in what is basically last year's Mercedes, a 1:16.658. Leclerc was 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, and below Perez was Sainz, Russell, Kvyat, Grosjean, Raikkonen and Albon completing out the top 10. But Perez, a 1:16.654, impressive on the middle of the compound, the C3 tyre compound. Sorry if you can hear that. Notifications coming through. He was on the C3 tyre compound as well. The Mexican driver is completing 43 laps. Hamilton had a total of 90 in the end. Magnussen, due to drive for Haas in the morning. Romain Grosjean took the wheel instead to finish 8th behind Danny Kvyat and AlphaTauri. Red flags came out though. Alexander Albon did put his RB16 to the turn 12 gravel trap before wrestling out. Loads of gravel all over the circuit, and Kimi Raikkonen spun at turn 15 in the Alfa Romeo as well. They finished 9th and 10th as well. Magnussen, Ocon, Verstappen, Bottas will join in the afternoon session as well. Just 4 hours remain though of pre-season testing. Let's take a look at the times from the morning session. So Daniel Ricciardo topped the timesheets in the morning session for day 3 at 1:16.276. He completed 65 laps in the Renault. Charles Leclerc is 2nd at 1:16.360. Lewis Hamilton 3rd on a 1:16.410. Sergio Perez 4th at 1:16.658. Carlos Sainz in 5th at 1:16.820. George Russell is 6th at 1:16.871. Danny Kvyat is 7th for AlphaTauri on a 1:16.914. Romain Grosjean 8th on 1:17.037. Kimi Raikkonen 9th on a 1:17.415. And Alexander Albon rounding out the top 10 on 1:17.803, completing just 59 laps. The smallest though of the morning, that went to George Russell in the Williams of just 43 laps. Right, let's take a look then at the afternoon session for the final day of pre-season testing. It wasn't Daniel Ricciardo who was fastest overall. No, that honour went to Valtteri Bottas at 1:16.196. In just 4 hours, he completed 77 laps, but he did it on the C5 tyre compound. As I said earlier, it's the softest that Pirelli bring to a race meeting. He was a second down, though, on his time from last week's pre-season of a 1:15.732 that he put on last Friday. But it is the fastest time for the 2 weeks. So good stuff from Bottas. He's having a pretty much a solid run going into Melbourne. Verstappen second on the C4 tyre, just a 1:16.269 for him. That's within the same tenth of a second. So good showing from Red Bull there. Ferrari, a bit of low down. They were below Daniel Ricciardo's time for the morning session. Charles Leclerc with a 1:16.360 was there as well. As I said, Ricciardo was third for his day with Renault. Not a bad last run. Leclerc, well, 181 laps, completed at the circuit of Barcelona. The most of any driver completed on the Friday. Good day for him. Some optional for Haas as well. Grosjean surviving a trip to the gravel at turn 7. Magnussen in the afternoon as well. 29 laps manager for him. They have a difficult team as they've got to sort out a clutch issue going into Australia. Despite that, red flag free in the end, so that was all right. Not too much in the afternoon. That was a bit of a shocker. What may have disappointed fans slightly, however, was the picture of the true pace of the team still appeared to be lost in the myths. We've still got a lot to tell. It's the C5 tyre that's at the fastest times here in pre-season testing so far, so we're going to have a little bit more of an interesting run going forward. Still though, let's take a look at the times from the afternoon session. So Valtteri Bottas topped the final day of pre-season testing on 1:16.196, completing 77 laps in the 4 hours in the afternoon. Max Verstappen was second on a 1:16.269, Daniel Ricciardo third on a 1:16.276, Charles Leclerc is fourth on 1:16.360, Lewis Hamilton in fifth on a 1:16.410. Then we get Esteban Ocon sixth for Renault, a 1:16.433, Sergio Perez seventh on a 1:16.634, Carlos Sainz is 8th on a 1:16.820, George Russell 9th, 1:16.871, Danny Kvyat rounds out the top 10 for Alfa Romeo, 1:16.914, Romain Grosjean 11th for Haas, a 1:17.037, Kimi Raikkonen 12th for Alfa Romeo, a 1:17.415, Kevin Magnussen 13th, a 1:17.495, and then we get Alexander Albon in 14th for Red Bull, a 1:17.803, completing just 59 laps. The smallest though, Kevin Magnussen, with just 25 laps completed. So Mercedes look unbeatable. Valtteri Bottas topping the timesheets on both days of pre-season testing. So we are back. Formula 1 starts in 2 weeks' time, but it's very much an uncertainty at the moment of what exactly is going on. We were talking about it all throughout the week of the coronavirus, but now hopefully we get the season started. We'll be back then 2 weeks' time for Australian Grand Prix. Bye for now.